Hello and welcome, Caitlin. So happy to have you on the show today. Um, I'm really curious about your story. I'm really interested in what you do. So if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got here today.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me. I am Caitlin Ball. I am a health and lifestyle coach, and I teach women how to get off the dieting roller coaster and teach them how to eat more intuitively, let go of all those food restrictions, and to learn how to listen to their bodies and how to love their bodies and really, gain body confidence, get rid of that shame. And all of this helps women actually start to love their lives even more because food and body is such a big issue that a lot of us have had. And the reason why I got into it is because I grew up a little chubby, I guess, and became more vain. And I asked my mom if she could teach me how to do Weight Watchers. And so here I was at 12 years old, learning how to count Weight Watchers points because I wanted to lose weight. And, looking back on it now, it was just about confidence. It was middle school and girls are mean in middle school. And so you're just trying to control. I was just trying to control what I could. And so I started my first diet. It was great. I, lost a few pounds. I did it in the summer. I was excited to go back to school. And what I didn't realize at the time was that it really messed up my relationship with food. And it just made me feel guilty anytime that I was eating something that I knew was quote unquote bad for me, that had higher calories or fat or sugar or whatever it was, had too many points in the Weight Watchers world. And so I just went on and off dieting for the next 15 years. I tried them all under the sun. And, what it really came down to was the diet was always the hope for a better life. And I didn't realize at the time that there's so many other things you could do to have the life that you want that really has nothing to do with your body size. And what happened for me was that I moved to Europe with my now husband, and he got a job offer. And we were traveling a lot, and we thought we were only going to be there a few years. Ended up staying 6. That's a different story. But we wanted to get a lot of travel in, and we got like 6 weeks off a year. And we were living in Switzerland, so we had Italy and France and Germany all a train ride away, so we could take these awesome weekend trips. And I was so used to the US mentality of go on a diet and then go on a week of vacation and eat whatever the heck you want and come back and then diet again and then take one more vacation in the year or whatever. And so I realized like that's not sustainable when you're traveling a lot. I wanted to go and enjoy foods in all these different wonderful places, but I didn't know how to do that in a sustainable way. I bought a juicer, and I was like, I don't want to go on a juice cleanse every time I come back to Zurich. Like, I want to figure out how to eat uh, the right amount and the right foods for my body and still enjoy. And I was actually noticing that a lot of people were doing this. That, women weren't ordering their salad dressing on the side. They were eating pizza and pasta. They were just eating, amounts that would feel good to their body. They weren't talking about cheating on their diet. They weren't body shaming themselves in front of other people. And there's generally just much less of a diet culture in Europe in general. So it kind of came at the perfect timing where I was like, okay, what do? I got to figure this out. And I found this course on intuitive eating, and I was allowed to let go of all restrictions around food and started realizing that how funky of a relationship I had had with food and my body, and started eating what I wanted, but started realizing which foods made me feel good and which foods were maybe better to only have on occasion. And it made me feel so free and happy. And I just knew I had to share this with the world, especially my fellow American women that are in the heart of diet culture.
Mm.
And so that's what I've been doing ever since. I've been doing it for almost 6 years now.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You and I have so many similarities, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my first Weight Watchers meeting was at age 5.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And my mom, was really struggled with her weight. So she ended up going to Overeaters Anonymous. So I
Yeah.
spent a lot of my childhood, just waiting for her and in the background, hearing, the 12-step program, having
Mm,
the 12 steps on the table, and just really witnessing on all levels, emotionally, mentally, and physically, the struggle with food.
yeah.
And food can heal, food can harm. And then I lived in Switzerland for 10
You
years.
did. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
And so I saw miraculous changes that food could create, like massive healing.
Yeah.
But then there was always this like double-edged sword where, and I think every person, especially women listening, can relate to not feeling like food is your friend, feeling
Yeah.
like food is really the enemy. And if you can just like forget about it or leave it off the table, it's like so much easier. You get to your goal weight, which I never
Right.
was going to be. I was never going to be that skinny model in the magazine ever.
Yeah. Me either.
And it was like, but I wanted it so badly, right? And I think I've had glimpses, and I, like you've been on every diet. I've done every diet
Yeah.
imaginable under the sun. And I, I have had like glimpses of food freedom. And I know that intuitive eating is the answer. And you make it sound so simple, right? And I know it is, but like
It's not, yeah, there's definitely some nuances.
it's a journey, but it's
Yeah.
like, it almost sounds like you flip a switch, and it's like,
Mhm.
this magic thing. And what I notice with the women that I've worked with is that like, it's like almost like it's like a consequence or a symptom of the intuitive eating and the reassociation, I guess I could call it, with food. And it's like weight loss is like a byproduct of it. It's almost like just it happens, like, oh, that happened, but it
Yeah.
wasn't like, the main thing, which I find so interesting because we all know that COVID has caused a lot of weight gain,
Yeah.
right? Kids, I think on average it was like 8 to 12 pounds, and then adults up like 18 to 25, which is
Mhm.
kind of, that's significant enough that everyone's kind of thinking about it right now.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm really curious. It's just so ironic, right? That we have like had similar journeys.
Yeah, totally. That's crazy.
I know, it's so interesting. And I totally geek out about it. Like, and that could be like a manifestation of the food compulsion, right? That I just
Mm.
can't, like, I think about it all the time. And I was on Master Chef, and I like
Oh,
build
wow.
culinary institutes. Like, I'm so into it, and like
Yeah.
how it can be so abundant and
Mhm.
healthy, Um, and that is really exciting. But so is part of your process taking people's focus away from food? Um, yeah, I'm just curious about that question first.
Yeah. So there's kind of both. Like at first, I think that the biggest and best thing for people to do is just to try those foods that they have been restricting and try
Mm,
them with like my permission. I feel like a lot of people need outside permission to allow them to do those things, especially because they were looking for outside rules and whatever with the diet. So giving them permission to just like eat again and try all these foods. So it does start with the food often. But the other part, which people don't realize, is that so much of the reason why we're eating the food is because you're dissatisfied in another area of your life. So
totally. Yes.
it's like that's why people have gained weight during COVID. There was a whole aspect of
Yeah.
life that we were missing, and we used food as a coping mechanism. And
Mhm.
it's totally understandable of why people have gained weight. And I try not to focus on weight loss, but the weight gain can just be used as an indicator of,
Yeah.
okay, something was going on, something was missing that wasn't really working in my life at the time, and it made me turn to food. So what do I need? And a lot of times it's the things that bring you joy, that light you up. So whether that's connection was the one in COVID, that we didn't have that people in person connection that we were missing so much. But then other things can be, for me, it's like when I'm a creative person, I love doing little craft projects. That's like my passion and hobby. And when I'm doing that regularly, I'm feeling like myself. I'm feeling good. I'm not relying too much on food. And I find when I am eating too much chocolate, when I am constantly looking in the refrigerator for things, it's like I'm not doing my passions. I'm not connecting with people enough. I'm not doing those things that make me truly happy. So it's really a
Mhm.
combination. Like if you've dieted for a long time, you do need to start, like, let go of all those restrictions, but then you have to unpack, why am I eating the way that
Yeah.
I'm eating?
Yeah.
And the other layer is the beliefs you have about your body. You have to work on
Mm.
those beliefs
Mhm.
to really figure out, like, oh, that's why I'm so obsessed with food and the calories and all that stuff, because I believe that being smaller is better and will make me more worthy, and
Mhm.
all those things that are totally untrue, but we live in a society that praises thinness.
It's true. And honestly, though, when I'm at like my goal weight, I do note, and I could be making this up, but I feel like there's a different feedback that I get from my family and even strangers.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that that contributes to me feeling better at that weight. Like I
Yeah.
love that weight, but to hold it, it requires a lot of like rigidity.
Yeah.
And to the extent at which my family has had like interventions, like, hey, you need to like eat some chocolate, like you need to like,
Relax a little bit.
yeah, exactly. But it's so funny because like feeling good in my skin and liking what I see in the mirror has taken its own time. And I was a Ford model, a plus size model, but I was,
Okay.
but still, like you'd think that somebody who had that experience, and it wasn't like I was just on the board, like I actually was a working, very successful Ford model for like 6 years.
Okay.
And but it's only been in the last, I would say about 10 years that I've been able to look in the mirror and be like, hey, I like what I see.
Yeah.
And then, and I've got like 30 years of yoga. And that's helped me so much to
Yeah.
actually just like feel comfortable in my skin because
Mm-hmm.
I grew up overweight, and ostracized and made fun of. My nickname in kindergarten was Fatso. Like I really get it. Like my mother's third cause of death was severe obesity. I mean,
Mm.
it's been such a huge theme in my life,
Yeah.
in so many angles that it's really taken its time. And people ask me all the time, like, how do I increase my self-love? And I'm like, that's a big question.
It's loaded. Yeah.
Like you can't just look in the mirror and be like, just tell yourself you love yourself. Like that's like not going to work. That's really superficial.
Yeah.
What are some tips that you can give our listeners to help them increase their self-love?
Yeah. So one of the biggest and most effective things, I think, is a gratitude practice that combines body gratitude and life gratitude. So what I mean by that is, you can't, yeah, like you just said, you can't stare at the mirror and say, I love myself. Yeah, maybe you stare at the mirror, maybe you don't, I don't know, but it's thanking your body for the different functions that your
Oh,
body does for you.
I
So
love
it's
that.
like,
Yeah.
thank you, arms, for giving an amazing hug. I haven't been able to hug that many people, and it's so nice to hug people, or something like that. Or thank you, stomach, for digesting this food. Or I recently had a baby, like, thank you for bringing this baby into the world.
Oh,
And
congratulations.
thank you.
That's
Yeah,
really
so it's like
big.
you have to thank your body for doing these amazing things. And one of the things I like to think about too is, like, it's not necessarily about always loving the way that your body looks. It's loving your body so much despite how she looks. Just like you love your husband despite that he doesn't do the dishes as often as you like, or you love your child despite that they don't sleep great through the night, or, like all the little things that I think of body love as I love you. I love you like I love another person. It doesn't have to be conditioned just to loving the way that your body looks. So I think gratitude is a great place to start, and gratitude also with your life, because just getting to you're doing all these things with your body, going out and having a nice meal with a friend, working on your passions like my craft projects, all that kind of stuff, just like being grateful and taking the time to notice how nice of a life you actually have is a really great thing to do. I know during a hard time in my life, is when I really started like a true gratitude practice. And on my bad days, it was just so nice to see, like, there were so many I could fill a whole page of good things that happened today, even though I felt like it was a crappy day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I love how you qualify the gratitude. That was really, really beautiful.
Yeah. Good.
And for us who are mothers who are listening, it is such a huge gift to give to your children, whether they're boys or girls, to learn this self-love practice. And
Yeah.
it was when my daughter was in her teens, and she's still in her teens, but earlier on, like 14, 13, that she was having these massive self-image issues. And I was really upset about it because, I love her so much, just in the way you're describing, but I didn't really love myself the way that I loved her. And it was her breakdown, so to say, around that issue that forced me to re-examine my relationship with myself. And and I'm not exaggerating, it was like magic.
Yeah.
When it got brought to my attention that I felt, hopeless and desperate. And we had her in therapy, and I was like, oh my God, do we need to go to, like, she put on like 100 pounds. Like, it was really, she has social anxiety. Like, I was like feeling really out of control.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't change this, but I knew somehow, some way I had caused it. Thank God we got some professional help that was, a good quality therapist. And he really looked me in the eye and he was like, you need to deal with this. And it's on you. And I was like, oh my God, what do you mean? But he's right. And it's exactly in alignment with what you were saying. And it was literally like magic, because I was only able to accept her to the extent at which I was able to accept myself.
Yeah.
And so for all of us, on common ground, and I believe that we're all in recovery on some level, actually, whether it's tomatoes or, potatoes. Or, whatever, the shame blame cycle, it's like, we're all in recovery. So I believe it's really a, even playing field. And some of us might, be a little more practiced than others.
Yeah.
Well, we can rebound faster, but it's like, it just comes with a package. And she completely transformed when I was able to really embrace myself more lovingly.
That's amazing. And that's so powerful. And that's why I'm so passionate about doing this work with women and mothers, because I want to help the next generation. And the best way to help is to have a bunch of great leaders, and leading by example is really an effective way to parent. And if you can show your child that you love yourself, then it's going to be a lot easier for them to love themselves.
Totally. And I had no idea that I had this work to do until she revealed it to me.
Yeah.
And she's now lost 80 pounds.
Wow.
And she's like, really, she loves herself so much. She's like, if you're not like on my level, like, go take a hike, like irreverent, like teenagers should be, really.
Yeah.
How, but anyway, it's just so
but she's
amazing.
done a lot of deep work as a young kid. She's
it's true. But, and so, I mean, it's what you're saying is absolutely accurate. I mean, the more work that we can do as parents, the better off. We're healing generations.
Yeah.
My mother was clearly a compulsive eater. Everybody on that side of the family has massive weight issues. Is it
Mhm.
genetic? I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Regardless, it's our work. And the only
Yeah.
one who can save ourselves is us.
Yeah. You can stop the
And
cycle.
yeah. And it's like, yeah, obesity is going to cause more complications with diabetes and heart disease and now COVID.
Mhm.
So it's of great concern for a lot of people. And we think it's about losing the pounds, but
Yeah.
it's so much bigger than that. Have you read that book by Sally O'Malley? I think her name is called The Gift of Our Compulsions.
No, I haven't.
Such a great book, so not popular, such a hard book to read.
Gotcha.
But it's a great book. It really shifted um, the way I was thinking about this this impending doom of weight, because it's almost like I felt like growing up in OA, Overeaters Anonymous, it was like
Mm.
it was almost easier if you were an alcoholic. And I'm sorry if I'm offending anybody listening, because
Yeah.
I don't want to minimize alcoholism or drug addiction. But when you're in the 12-step program, you can leave that stuff out of the house, off the table, out of sight.
Yeah.
But
Food you
like,
can't.
you can't.
Yeah.
It's a relationship.
Yeah. And it's
Right.
necessary to live. Alcohol is not necessary to live.
Right. So it's really, really complex and multidimensional topic. So I
It
really
is.
commend you for like being courageous to be like, hey, I'm going to stand with you in self-love and we're going to do this.
Yeah. It's hard work. And, I found that it's hard. A lot of my clients have been reading my emails, been part of my community, listening to my podcast for years before they decide to invest in themselves and join one of my programs. And I think a lot of it has to do with believing that it's okay to put weight loss off the table for a little bit. It's okay to uh, there's a lot of misconceptions about intuitive eating, that it's not healthy, that, letting go of restrictions is not healthy, but it actually is healthy because you're helping your mind, you're helping figure out why you're eating the way that you're eating. And that's probably what Overeaters Anonymous is all about. It's like, there's a reason why you're eating that way, and it's getting to the root cause. So then you can deal with the food part.
Yeah. And I'm really interested in sustainable solutions, right? That are
Yeah.
long term. And what I realized early on as a health coach, specifically working with food, when I first started out, was that like the diet plan wasn't working.
Yeah.
Everybody was able to do something for 7 days, maybe 21, but it was like it was like a rubber band. They just snapped right back into
Right.
their predictable patterns. And it's like, and I was like, I'm not committed to that.
Yeah.
That's not actually fun, interesting. That's actually upsetting. Like it actually upset me.
Yeah.
I was
No,
like,
I feel
I
you.
got to figure out a better solution. That's when I got into like the ontological coaching thing.
Yeah.
Um, and your training is different. I'm familiar with the creators of the program, really amazing work.
Yeah.
The intuitive eating ideology is just amazing, amazing work. And that's what you're talking about, is going to the root, so that you can really resolve it once and for all. And I
Mhm.
think for most people, including myself at a time, that seemed impossible.
Yeah.
It was like something that was going to plague me for the rest of my life, like it had plagued all of my ancestors pretty much.
Hmm.
And it doesn't have to be like that.
No, it doesn't. And the nice thing about it too is a lot of it is, you can go as deep as you want. I mean, you should get to the root, but also a lot of it is just changing some habits that you have and learning how to be more mindful while making more mindful choices. And there's so many things that you can do slowly that can make a lot of change, even if you're like freaked out to like really get to the root and to really
Sure.
dive deep. You can do both ways. I've had clients that really maybe they're not going deep into their traumas and whatnot, but they are just like learning new habits that feel good, it's all about choosing rather than someone telling you what to do. So
Yeah.
gaining that power, and intuitive eating is really empowering, that it's just like, oh, I eat in a very specific way right now. But it's because, if somebody on the outside saw me, they might think I'm on a diet, but I'm not. I'm eating this way because this is what makes me feel my very best. And
Yeah.
I want to feel my best.
Love
So
it.
I think that's what people can slowly start to do if they're feeling it's like overwhelming. Intuitive eating sounds like too much. You can just really start with some simple things. Just start
Yeah.
changing some habits, start feeling like you have some control back. That's what a lot of women say, dieting, it feels like you're just out of control if you're off the diet.
Right.
But I feel totally in control I feel more in control around food than I ever have in my life because I'm not dieting. But it just takes a little bit of time to get there, and you need to give yourself that time, because 30-day diet is not going to do it for you.
No. And you have to be able to distinguish the difference, like when you're eating, why you're eating, what
Yeah,
you're eating, right? So there's
exactly.
all of that also to be able to unravel, I think is the word that comes to me,
Mm-hmm.
because it feels very mesh, right? So that's why I say unravel, because you've got to figure, I was like, oh, take the time to pause and say, am I really hungry? What am I really hungry for? How's this going to make me feel? Of course, not without being obsessed about it. But
Yeah.
anyway, you have a training program. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I have a free training. And so if anybody's interested in learning about intuitive eating and learning about how to build body confidence, it's a training called How to Ditch the Food Guilt and Body Shame to Gain Confidence and Feel Free. And
Mm.
it really dives into kind of the 4 basic steps to get started on intuitive eating. So when you watch the training, you'll actually be able to just like start at your very next meal. So yeah, you can just go to my website, caitlinball.com, and it's right on there. And that's a great place to start.
That's so great, because really it is one bite at a time,
Yeah.
one step at a time, one breath at a time.
Yeah,
Because
you don't have to wait until Monday. You just can start at your next meal.
so well said, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, I really appreciate you being on the show today.
Thank you so much. It was so great to be here. I'm glad you had me.
Yeah, and really hope our listeners got a little insight and hope. A lot of times, the people in my community, Caitlin, and perhaps also yours, are just so confronted with the roles they're playing as a mom, an entrepreneur, a wife,
Mhm.
and then, of course, your own health and well-being and just life. And oftentimes, health is the last on the list.
Yeah.
And it's only when there's some kind of crisis that they have to actually pay attention to it. So I'm very committed to a prevention model,
Yeah.
and one that looks
Build the
right
foundation.
and looking right at the
Health.
root.
Yeah.
Yes, because everything stems from there.
Hmm.
And anyway, thank you again. And I hope everybody will take her free training, who feels like this would help them increase their self love and become what I would call an intuitarian.
Oh, okay.
Oh, because that's actually where the richness is, the wisdom, to be able to tap into that innate wisdom that all of us have. It's
Yeah.
so powerful, and to feel empowered around our body and our food choices just liberates so much energy.
It does. It truly does. You will feel so free.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Yeah, thank you.